How did the Chicago Bulls standout point guard and National Basketball Association MVP for the year 2011, Derrick Rose, manage to receive an athletic scholarship and attend the University of Memphis? According to an article posted on Kentucky.com, it appears that his acceptance into a credible Division I university was solely based on his exceptional athletic abilities. As news broke in October of 2007 of his high school grade changes and his academic fraud, it was suspected that Rose had someone else take his SAT. Now, I'm a huge Chicago Bulls fan and Derrick Rose fan, but academic issues amongst athletes are happening far too often. While Derrick Rose's case was more of an ethical issue above all else, many student athletes are now attending college to pursue their athletic potential rather than become educated, which will someday become their career. Holding our student athletes, who are a large amount of college students across the nation, to only a 2.3 grade point average isn't too promising for our future leaders, political figures, business owners, and the rest of the workforce. Today I would like to share with you some statistics and expert opinions along with my own personal experiences on the current GPA requirements for collegiate student athletes and the importance behind why it needs to be raised. In order to bring change into our athletes' academic standards, we should impose a gradual increase to a 3.0 grade point average requirement, mandatory grade checks and tutoring sessions, and also strict enforcement if an athlete falls short of their academic responsibilities. Before understanding my solutions to this issue, I must first inform you why putting student before athlete is so important. Knowledge will always be a part of everyone's life. Athletics, on the other hand, must come to an end at some point, and for a majority of people, before they even reach the professional level. Trust me, I've had to manage being a student as well as an athlete since I started playing soccer at the age of 5. I play soccer at USD, and finding time to complete assignments while traveling by bus is sometimes a challenge. But you have to find and balance and organize your priorities in order to have success in the classroom and on the field. Luckily, I have yet to give up soccer, but I know that the time will come when I have to hang it up and get myself into the workforce. According to the NCAA, fewer than 2% of college athletes end up turning pro. This means that for every 100 college athletes, only 2 continue onto the professional level. And the percentage of those who are able to stay healthy and play well enough to stay at the professional level are even slimmer. One wrong move or the slightest change of direction and you blow out your knee. What do you have to fall back on then? An education and degree? You better hope so. With odds and risks like that, GPA requirements for student athletes need to be increased and more rigidly enforced, as a valid college diploma will get you further than the possibility of becoming a professional athlete. Being granted the opportunity to play sports at the collegiate level is a privilege and not a right. Earning this privilege to play sports in college is a once-in-a-lifetime chance that also comes with a lot of expectations and responsibilities. However, with GPA requirements set at a 2.3 for NCAA student athletes, it is very hard to believe that the student is expected to work just as hard in the classroom as on the court or field. If participating in sports was meant to be more than performance in the classroom, the title would be athlete-student. Finding that balance between student and athlete is the key to success in any situation. The only way to create equality among the expectations for student athletes is to raise the bar on GPA requirements. Reaching this requirement should be just as important as mandatory as attending games or practices. Academics allow students to build intelligence, while athletics allow athletes to build character. Finding balance between the two is where a well-rounded person is created. Former President of the United States, Gerald R. Ford, once stated, "There are few things more important to a country's growth and well-being than competitive athletes." If it is cliche to say that athletes build character as well as muscle, then I subscribe to the cliche. This statement is easy to agree with athletics certainly creating morals, unique experiences, leadership skills, and mental toughness. However, these characteristics can only go so far. Knowledge and intelligence build one's credibility and integrity. Now that I've explained the importance of education to an athlete, it is also important to understand the underlying problems with the current GPA requirement for student athletes. The current GPA requirement for student athletes is heavily flawed by the government and universities themselves, as they have failed to continuously improve and reform academic standards. According to opposing viewpoints, sports and athletes, in 1986, Proposition 48 was put in place, which stated that legislation required the potential student athletes to obtain at least a 2.0 GPA with a 700 combined ACT score. As it was not until 1996 that Proposition 16 was formed, which created the sliding scale. A potential student athlete could have a 2.0 GPA and a 1010 combined SAT, or a combined 820 SAT, but the student must have a 2.5 grade point average or higher. Now is the time for change. There are 4 possible solutions that I believe could drastically improve our education system for student athletes. My first resolution is to gradually increase the GPA requirement for student athletes while they are still in high school. By setting the GPA requirement at an attainable yet challenging level in high school, these athletes will know what is expected to them once they go on to college. To make it fair, these high schools can gradually increase their requirement by 0.5 each year until they eventually reach a grade point average of 2.5. By having a reasonable GPA requirement in high school, athletes who go on to play in college will know what to expect and will have already created the habits necessary to get the grades. I believe the GPA requirement should be set at a 3.0 or B average. The primary reason for attending college is to further one's education, which is why the GPA requirement for student athletes should be increased and enforced. A B average is very attainable and is necessary in order to have a reputable resume. If you are a student athlete, chances are that you won't be going pro. With that being said, upon graduation, grades are going to matter a lot more than how many points you scored in that one game. By staying up on assignments and dedicating time to studying, a B average is very attainable. And for those athletes who struggle with keeping up their grades and developing good study habits, my next 2 solutions will get them the grades that they need. Requiring athletes who struggle with their academics to visit a tutor twice a week would help improve their grades and academic confidence. Requiring athletes to have one-on-one time or a tutor for 2 hours a week would be way more beneficial than study tables where supervision is minimal and often results in athletes goofing around or on Facebook. Another way to keep athletes' grades in check would be to mandate a monthly progress report. This gives athletes an idea of where they are in each of their classes and also allows the coaches to stay on top of their athletes. In closing, GPA requirements for college athletes need to be raised and strictly enforced in order to ensure that student athletes leave college with a diploma in their hand. By requiring student athletes to meet with a tutor twice a week, increase the GPA requirements both in the high school and the collegiate levels, and grade reports, athletes will learn to appreciate their education just as much as they appreciate participating in their sports. Having a C average as the standard for student athletes, those who are meant to set the bar high and be our role models, is not something to look up to.